Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head once again to the Netherlands, a country who produce a very good standard of craft beer, but it's often overlooked in favour of Germany and in Belgium. It's much like France actually, but the quality of beer that comes out of the Netherlands really is excellent. So for this one we are going to go to a little town called Rijswijk, which is actually very close to Den Haag, and this brewery is Bierbrouwerij de Arn, and we're going to have a taste of their Dubbele Arn today, which is a sort of Belgian style Dubbele beer, meant to be very nice, so quite looking forward to this one for you. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very kind of brief history of the brewery. It will only be a minute or two long because this is a very new company. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, available in English, Dutch and also in Spanish, interestingly enough. And also check out the link down there that will take you to my future reviews that I'll do from Bierbrouwerij de Arn as well. Hopefully I can revisit them, but it's quite hard to get Dutch beer in Scotland, so fingers crossed I can get back to the Netherlands at some point. But anyway, to tell you about this brewery itself, and before I start I will just apologise in advance for my Dutch pronunciations. It's a little bit hard sometimes, but this brewery, as I told you, is based in Rijswijk in the Netherlands, and this is just to the south of Den Haag and to the north of Delft. It's almost kind of sandwiched in between these two quite well known towns, if you like. But the brewery was founded by Arjen te Hunte, who was previously quite an avid home brew enthusiast, and he had apparently always toyed with the idea of becoming a professional brewer and establishing his own brewery. But in late 2012 the opportunity actually arose for him to create this brewery, and out of this was born Bierbrouwerij de Arn. So he produced his first beer in August of 2013, which was a doppelbock beer, double bock, however you want to describe it, and this was produced at the Silens Brewery, Silens Landbier Brewery, I'm sorry, in Raalte in the Netherlands. But throughout the coming years, Arjen actually expanded the brewery range to include more styles of beer, and they've got about 10 of these now, but all of these beers are available in the bottles like this one, and also in 20-litre casks. But since the brewery has been so successful so far, Arjen actually wants to get his own brewery and brewing equipment and set up the brewery home in Rijswijk in the Netherlands. But I do think they brew very close to there. I think Raalte isn't actually too far away. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. Just to list the other beers you can get from these guys, you get the Blonde Arn, the Dubbele Arn, which is this guy here, Triple Arn, Irish Pale Arn, which is an American style IPA from what I hear, Eigenwijs Arn, Stout Arn, Zomers Arn, Bockig Arn, and also Viters Arn as well. I think the last three are the seasonal beers, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, to tell you about this beer itself, this one is a 7.5% Dubbele style beer. It's hopped using Northern Brewers and Bramling's Cross, with a malt base of Pils malt, Munich malts, Cara 120, Cara 160, roast malts, and also Carafa, which I believe is a sort of Brazilian coffee bean, but don't quote me on that one, I'm not actually sure. But let me just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this beer. It's actually quite nicely done. It reminds me of the German metal band actually, Primal Fear. They have this kind of eagle, this sort of eagle symbol actually, so it reminds me a little bit of Primal Fear band from Germany, but it's very nicely presented. Plain bottle cap on this one. And I also have to give a shout out to one of my subscribers, Stevie, who's from the Netherlands, and he seems to really enjoy these Dutch beer reviews, so a big shout out to you on this video, and he watches all of them, which is quite cool actually. But without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. So a 7.5% Dubbele beer from Rijswijk in the Netherlands, Bierbrouwerij de Arn, Dubbele Arn. But yeah, looks a very nice beer. You can actually smell the fruit coming off this one just as you're pouring it. Just without even paying too much attention to the aroma, you can smell the kind of fruity and caramelly notes coming off this one as you pour it, which is kind of quite typical of the Dubbele style of beer. But as you can see, it's actually poured a nice, I want to say that's a sort of rosewoody colour actually. I would have thought it was going to be mahogany, sort of mahogany colour, but it's a nice kind of dark rosewoody colour. It looks very nice. There's a sort of half finger of a kind of frothy, beigey, tan coloured head on there, and that's going to fade away to be a very thin, foamy layer But it looks really nice. There's some big bubbles of carbonation just sticking towards the side of the glass. Teeny little bit of sediment in the very bottom. If I put my fingers behind this, you can see that it's not transparent. And that's not just because of the colour of it. It is a hazy beer, but it looks very nice. You can see some of the little bubbles of carbonation just going up towards the bottom of the head there. Very small bubbles, but there are some bigger ones just sticking to the side of the glass too. But it looks very, very nice. So let's have a look at the aroma on this guy. It's quite interesting actually. It actually has a little bit of a kind of dusty and slightly earthy hop character to it, I have to say. But you've got a nice kind of sweet toasted caramel malt in there, and you actually can really notice a sort of sweet chocolate coming out of this one. And that's probably the carafa actually that's making that, but you can get a big bready malt base in there. You've got a typical bit of Belgian sort of bready yeasty character, and you've got some kind of nutty and chocolate aromas coming out too. But the red fruit actually is fairly prominent in this one. I want to say it's a kind of plummy note. It's a bit sharper than figs. It's a sort of plummy or raisin note you're getting from the kind of red fruits in this one. You can really smell those esters. When you sugar it up though, you're getting more of the kind of sort of brown, sweet brown bread notes coming out, but there is a little bit of earthy hop coming out of this one, I want to say too. But some nice nutty, nice chocolatey aromas, a little bit of toasted caramel, and the typical Belgian bready yeasty characters. More of a kind of darker malt, roasted caramel, and sort of big Belgian bready yeast. And some chocolate as well. The chocolate is quite prominent in this one. I don't think I've ever come across a Dubbele that has had chocolate as being so prominent as that, but anyway, I'm sure it will be a very nice beer. So a quick toast to Stevie, one of my Dutch subscribers. Thank you for watching the videos, and I'll dedicate this beer review to you. So slange my man. So the beer certainly doesn't disappoint. What I will say is that it is really quite different from the Belgian Dubbele beers. And that's, I think, just because of the sort of chocolatey flavours you're getting in this one. So it is quite different from a typical Belgian Dubbele. The Belgian Dubbels are a lot sweeter than this, whereas this one is a bit more smoother and a bit more creamy. But that's just on first taste. But yeah, it's quite nice. Like I say, it's different from what you're typically used to with a Dubbele. But there's a lot of nice flavour in this beer, I have to say. It's quite well done. It definitely has a nice roasted character that just lingers in this. It's almost a little bit of coffee, so that'll be the carafa coming out. Yeah. So you've got a nice big, slightly toasted caramel malt in this one. And there's a good bready backing to that. It's a sort of kind of brown, slightly rye-ish bread backing that's in there, and there's a little bit of the kind of bigger, sort of yeasty sweetness that you expect from the Dutch beers, and it is a little bit toasted. The bready character in the beer is quite toasted. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, and it is actually quite different from the Belgian Dubbele, so you have to kind of be on your game if you try this one and you're wanting to pick out the flavours. But yeah, nice big kind of slightly toasted caramel, a big bready malt in there, a sort of rye bready malt, definite kind of cerealish presence to it, this one, but there's a little yeasty sweetness in there too, and it is, the sort of bready characteristics of the beer are toasted, but there is also some kind of infused flavour in there, like a sort of nutty or woody flavour, and that sort of bready malt base just passes over the middle of the tongue there, and as you move further out towards the edges, you're getting a little bit of the kind of carafa flavour coming out in the beer, and as you get right onto the edge of the tongue, where the hop characteristics always come out, you do have a little bit of earthy character, particularly in the very back corners of the tongue there, and as you move further around, you get a little bit more lighter hop character coming out there. But in the middle of the tongue, you can get a little bit of the chocolate in there. There's a definite brown sort of rye-ish bread flavour coming out of this beer. It's a very nice blend of flavours. There's a lot going on in this one. Like I say, good bit of earthy character in the hops there, particularly in the back corners, and it becomes a little bit lighter than that. You're getting a more red fruit hop character, a sort of estery flavour coming out of this one, more around the front of the tongue. It's a sort of, it's almost just a little bit, a very kind of light, slightly strawberry flavour, if that makes sense. But it's a sort of mix between strawberry and figs, I would say. Even though in the aroma the fruit flavours come out as being sort of quite sharp, like plums or raisins, it is more of a kind of figgy flavour you're getting from this one, I would say. But yeah, the front of the tongue, you'll just get this little oily bubble of a mouthfeel, and it feels as if there's maybe a little bit more raisiny flavours. On the top of the tongue you'll get a little bit more of the sharper raisiny, maybe sort of prunes actually coming out. This little oily bubble will just come forward on your tongue and you'll get those kind of nice red fruit characters. But around the edge of the tongue, at the very front, the fruity esters you're getting there, I would say, are more like figs and just a little bit of a sort of candied fruit strawberry kind of thing, almost like a little bit of the Haribo hearts actually, that kind of candied fruit flavour, the sort of strawberry flavour. But yeah, overall, it's very nice. Not really detecting any alcohol warmth in that, and when it is 7.5%, you would maybe expect just a little bit of it, but maybe it's just to do with the chocolate presence in that. That maybe takes away a bit from the sort of caramel booziness that you normally expect from the style. But overall, I would say it's a really, really nice tasting beer, and it is quite interesting really because of that kind of difference in the character between that and the Belgian styles. That namely the sort of chocolatey element that's coming out in this one, and a more brown bread characteristic, and the earthy hops as well are quite interesting. And that's the typical characteristic of Bramling's Cross, the sort of English hops, by the way. I'm not sure about Northern Brewers, maybe it's an earthy hop too, but I know definitely Bramling's Cross does have a nice earthy character, and that comes out at the back of the tongue. But anyway, in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say it's mid-bodied, it's got a nice soft carbonation to it, and it's quite an oily mouthfeel actually. It's got the typical sort of Belgian Dubbele mouthfeel to it, but it's got a big malty sweetness there, and it's got a good, pardon me, a good mix of sort of spicy and earthy character to it as well. There is just a little bit of hop dryness on the very back corners of the tongue, and it's a nice kind of slightly sweetish earthy character to the hop, but very, very nicely done. And there is a bit of sort of caffeine bitterness on the top of the tongue from the carafa as well. So overall, this is a really interesting beer. It's very interesting to find a Dubbele that has a little bit more of a quirky character to it, namely the chocolate flavours and the slightly roasted coffee elements in it as well. So really interesting in that regard. And the hop, I think the hoppy, the earthy hop character is also a nice touch to it as well. So if you like the Dubbele style and you want something that's a little bit quirky and a little bit different, then definitely give this a try. So it's a very nice beer that I really think you should check out. And as I've said before, the standard of the beer that comes out of the Netherlands from the craft breweries really is good. It's just such a shame that they're next to Germany and also next to Belgium, which are two beer powerhouses. It's the same with France. France produces some very good beer as well, but the Dutch beer and the French beer is really difficult to get in this country, which is a real shame because it is very, very good. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Do go and check it out yourself. Bierbrouwerij de Arn from Rijswijk in the Netherlands. The Dubbele beer is very nice, very quirky. Go and give it a try. Let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. I always enjoy reading them, but for the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I'll ask my Dutch viewers to share my Dutch beer reviews around because I really do enjoy them. But thanks again for watching, and slange for now.